Welcome! Indie5 is here with 5 different releases, smaller bands from smaller labels, not necessarily first-timers, not necessarily newbies. In fact, quite the contrary, this time there are newer bands and there are older bands. And again, I'll go through them in alphabetical order. So the first one is Sophist. And this one is a curious case, not your typical band, because this one features black metal meeting grind. Now everybody knows what grind with death metal is, death grind, and it works quite well. I mean, you have the benefits of best of both worlds kind of idea, and that works usually in the favor of the genre. I mean, those two have been married for more, 30 years, 35, give or take. And when you do death grind, you kind of are usually able to please both camps. But with black and grind, not so easy. I mean, let me explain. Euronymous, once upon a time, said something like, no core, no fun, no mosh, no trends. And the core was one of those things, you know, hardcore and all that stuff. So punk was very much out of the question. But this is no history lesson. I'm merely trying to point out that there is a reason why this marriage made in hell never really happened that well. There are bands that have tried to put these two together, but it's more like a contest of not ending well. And that's unfortunately the case here as well. Now basically good to figure out, okay, let's do Marduk kind of a fast tempo and, you know, marry it with grind. And it's gonna be, wow, you know, you have just darker version of the typical grind, maybe less violent, but still you have the aggression and the passion and, you know, the tempo. But unfortunately, Sophist is not able to do that properly. Not even if they're from Canada. I mean, Canada being the home of war metal, basically, where, you know, black and death metal go fiercely hand in hand with, you know, high tempo and aggressiveness and chaotic parts and whatever. But Sophist is not able to put grind and black metal together, so it sounds good. There is a little bit like a B version of Anal Nethrak, the British band that has been more, say, kind of a, I don't know, weird Benediction spin-off in a way, having these grindier parts, having these black metal parts, but not exactly sounding quite right in that territory. I mean, they're more maybe industrial in the sense. However, Sophist is not even touching that territory, which makes it more complicated. Everything is kind of a chaotic, but lacking the ultra brutal production and good songwriting. So for me, this falls into book of beyond mediocrity. Not exactly super bad, but more on the bad sector than good one. I'm sorry to say it, but that's how I feel about it. The next band in question is very, very different. However, this one is also in the black metal department. Spell of Dark with the album Ghost from the Past. This is a Wolfswell Records, and that band has been here for quite some time. It's, as far as I could tell, a one-man project from Russia. And the style is something that you could call atmospheric black metal. Unfortunately, the previous one wasn't exactly good. It was kind of a mediocre attempt to, you know, create those atmospheric parts and then go for black metallic ways. But it was more like a, I don't know, like a mediocre demo rather than a good or even mediocre album. However, this one is an improvement to that. Not exactly great, but definitely going to right direction. Now the atmospheric parts and the melodies are more interesting. It's kind of a lo-fi compared to so many hi-fi good production bands. But I mean, it doesn't sound weak. And there's some parts where the band is like, hey, this is almost gonna fly properly. So quite interesting release, but still no cigar. But definitely on the better side than the previous one. So atmospheric black metal, if that is your territory, go for that. Or maybe you would rather see Suicidal Madness, which is kind of like French version of that, but going more into depressive and suicidal black metal style, also from Wolfswell Records. Now this is very melodic, but in a melancholic way. Actually, this is very, very dark and kind of a depressive album, which then again is something that you would probably expect to have when we're talking about suicidal black metal in the first place. Now the previous album, which I don't dare to pronounce as much as This one, Vestiges de Lunaire, or something like that, was pretty much the same quality as this one. Not exactly super good, but definitely going to places. I mean, there is certain kind of melancholy and darkness and, you know, that sad and depressive feeling where this band is just successful. However, songwriting, production and all that could be a tad bit little better. But definitely interesting in case you are not already hating the genre known as DSPM. Interesting, but not the best from that territory. Then we go to Brazil with a band called Vazio, and this is Eterno, Aeon, Obscuro. Sorry for the kind of American pronunciation. I could probably say it in other ways. This is from the Chalice Productions. That is what's worth mentioning. That is because there are various versions of this album. This has actually been released already a couple of times in various versions. This Digipack version, in my opinion, looks rather cool, so maybe this is a version you want to get in case you like the band. Now, I'm assuming that many people who think of Brazilian black metal think more about chaotic versions or maybe rawer versions of what black metal is seen in European ways. But this is in a way quite European, even quite Nordic to say, especially given that this is from Brazil. Now, the songwriting isn't exactly the most original one, but it's dark, it's fierce, it's fast, and it's actually nicely produced. That is really supporting the music here with something very, very suitable production. Now, once again, this is nothing really new in the terms of creating black metal, in terms of, you know, you have these melodies, you have these riffs, you have the fast tempo and all that stuff. So one could say, yeah, I know the story. And of course, you know, I mean, there are plenty of bands such as this. But to be honest, I think Vazio definitely has something good going on. Maybe this is not exactly the most memorable one. Maybe this is not the catchiest one, but definitely going to places. I am actually very, very interested to see where Vazio goes after this, because this one promises a lot to come. So intense black metal with fast tempo and darker, sinister parts, and that's where to go. So give it a go if you're up for that. And last but not least, we have Wyrd from Finland, and this is actually quite an old band, already coming from mid or late 90s, depending how you count, because this actually worked under a different name previously. Vandraren is, I think, 11th album by the band, and this is kind of a side project, because the main band is the Finnish black metal band Azagal. Now, this is not just one-man project, even only one person is shown here, or maybe it's actually the case when it comes to songwriting, because Narguath, who is the main man in Azagal, is also in the cover, on the cover, and he is probably the only mastermind of the band. However, where Azagal is more about this kind of a satanic and more evil kind of black metal, grim and all that, Wyrd is a bit more like going folkier, even doomier parts. Now, I'm not totally in full agreement with Metal Archive's definition of this band going, you know, black/folk/doom metal, because to be honest, the only doomier thing here is that this is kind of slow tempo stuff. Slow, mid-tempo, whatever you will, but you know, it's not as this is defined by kind of a doomier riffs or atmosphere, you know, sound. It's definitely black metal, but just, you know, slow tempo. And there are folkier parts where this kind of gets off. And by folkier parts, I mean more traditional instruments and the songwriting, which is sometimes called pagan, heathen black metal. So kind of more like away from that satanic, dark, evil aspect, and more about this kind of organic, maybe nature-related black metal. I mean, it kind of sounds true that this is not of those, let's summon the demons and invoke apocalypse on Earth. It's definitely kind of a more nature-related. But unfortunately, for me, it sounds like this is some Azaghal leftovers now with folkier touch. That is, through these 3 songs and about 30 minutes, it almost never kind of gets the engine rolling. It's pretty much mediocrity all the way down. Maybe mediocre plus in case you want to split hairs. That is, this is not a very boring one, but it's not very catchy or great one. The production, first of all, is way too weak for this kind of music. This would need more organic or just stronger and crispier production to really support the music. And the riffs, well, they are totally like leftover riffs. Well, a little bit better ideas here and there. Vocals, pretty basic standard raspier stuff. Nothing to just, do wow moments or like, what the hell is going on? So in my opinion, Wyrd has always been like a mediocre, but some great ideas, or better ideas, but not on the level of Azaghal. So this is definitely for Wyrd fans only, but in case you haven't liked the previous ones, this is not going to change the game, unfortunately. So, in my opinion, something that is going to fall between the good and the bad. Now, 5 different releases from 5 parts of the world. If I had to pick the winner here, I would say Suicidal Madness and Vazio are the best on this one. None of these are exactly great, none of them are really bad, but Sophist is probably the worst one. Well, let's be honest, but it's the worst one of this pile. But anyway, you figure out for yourself which kind of metal you're into, and maybe you will like totally different order these fine releases. Go give them a chance, and you will find the link in the boxes below. Maybe you like some of them, I don't know. But take care and have some fun with these babies.